Today I'm going to be taking a look at yet another SpongeBob spinoff to see, is it just a soulless cash grab, or is there actual love and passion into this project? Kamp Koral is a show that I never once thought that I would even take a look at, because I just didn't care for it. Modern SpongeBob never makes me go, "Dah!" anymore. If I'm watching it, I'm usually very upset, so watching Kamp Koral was never really on my table of something that I wanted to do. But on this journey of taking a look at every single show pretty much in existence, I figured I might as well take a look at another spin-off and see, is it actually good? Is it bad? Is it something that I should have given a chance? That's what we're going to be trying to answer today. And if you like content just like this, please make sure to like and subscribe, because I upload almost every single day. And at 50k, I'm going to be cosplaying as Pops from Regular Show, going to karaoke bars and singing Footloose, as well as doing the Milk Challenge. And if you want a place where you can talk about your favorite shows, movies, games, all that good stuff, my Discord will be in the description. Now let's finally take a look at Kamp Koral. The first episode that I'm going to be taking a look at, which is said to be one of the best in the series with a 8.7 on IMDb, is the episode Who's Complaining? And boy oh boy, they just don't shy very far off from the actual series with a Squidward torture porn episode. Oh boy! We just love watching our good old-fashioned Squiddy boy just suffer the entire time. That's what they sure love to do. For no apparent reason either. He's just trying to enjoy his life, and he just has to suffer an endless amount. It's just, it's such a beautiful day. And then he gets bashed in with a board, and that's their entire joke for the whole episode, by the way.
What the?
But there's a couple things that I want to point out about this show and the way it works so far. Just gauging it off the first episode, there's a couple things that I don't like. First off, I really don't like the intro very much at all. I'm off to summer camp! Like, I don't care, and it's just kind of weird. All the characters sound like they don't care very much. I don't know if that's weird for me to say, but there's something just missing about their tone and their expression, and I know that could easily be answered by them getting older, but I've listened to some stuff from modern SpongeBob, and even in that, Tom Kenny, he sounds like he's trying a lot more in modern SpongeBob than he does here, and it's not even to, like, give them more of a childlike voice. They all sound exactly the same, but it doesn't feel like there's passion in it. It's just like, no, this is Patrick! But instead of that, it's just, no, this is Patrick. It just doesn't feel the same to me. Those are just some of the things right off the bat that I didn't really like. Other than that, it's just Squidward suffering over and over again. And again, the main joke that they love to highlight here is Squidward just getting beat with a board over and over and over again. I think he gets hit in the face with a board like over 15 times in this episode, just stepping on a plank and it just hits him in the face.
Oh no, not this time.
And that is their main goal with the comedy here, and I just didn't find it that funny because the show also kind of looks awful to me. I don't know if that's just me being biased, how much I like the OG seasons of SpongeBob and how they looked and how the animation looked, the colors, all of that was really good. And here it just kind of feels soulless in a way. I don't know. It feels like a step back to go into this 3D world. At least that's how I view it. It doesn't even look like the 3D SpongeBob movies. It just looks very lackluster to me, even with the colors. But either way, Squidward's complaining, and he goes to Mr. Krabs, and he's like, you need to do something about this place, Krabs. Oh! He's very upset, and so he has to climb a tree to get to the complaint box, and he gets it down, and he's very frustrated, and then Mr. Krabs is like, Amy boy, oh, Squidward, you must do all the complaints yourself. So we just get to see the entire camp and how it's falling apart, and now Squidward has to try to take care of it. And he gets some help from Patrick and SpongeBob, or he tricks them into helping by saying that it's lots of fun. And I just don't really care for it. The only time the episode almost got me to laugh is when Squidward is initially inviting them to help with the work, and Squidward's all like, it's gonna be a lot of work, and Patrick leaves for 1 second and then he immediately comes back. I almost got a chuckle out of that, but again, I didn't really care for it.
It's a lot of work. I'm out. But there might be a badge in it for you.
So they just go around doing a bunch of things for the camp, like painting a mural, putting up a giant fan, and you'd think they'd come up with something clever to go with the joke, right? Something very interesting. Sometimes they do, but the majority of the time it's just, oh, SpongeBob, thank you so much for putting up that giant fan. Because he just gets hit with a plank again. again. I don't get it. I don't see how it's funny. Like, seasons 1 through 3 of SpongeBob is genuinely the greatest cartoon of all time because the comedy is so unbelievably peak, because they just wrote jokes for the sake of writing jokes, which is what I love so much about it. You could be 3 years old, you could be 90 years old, but they told jokes that were just designed to make anybody laugh because they were so absurdly funny. I loved that. Here, it just feels so soulless that they can't even come up with a single actual joke. The entire joke just hinges on Squidward getting hit with a plank, and it pisses me off. Either way, they fix everything around camp, and then they realize that they're all out of nails. Patrick pulls out one, and then it's revealed that all of the nails came from this one tower, so the tower collapses, and it's probably supposed to be, oh my gosh, the climax, it's visually stunning, oh my gosh, the tower collapsed, ah! Oh my god, it's so funny. It's really not. It just collapses, and then we get to watch a, like, moon board or whatever roll around, which also isn't very visually appealing, at least to me. And then Mr. Krabs is upset, and he's like, "I'm me boy, Squidward, I'm me boy, oh, I'm me boy, I'm gonna shove you in a box, oh, you fucking little squid, I fucking hate you." And then he shoves him in a box, and that's the end of the episode.
My thoughts exactly.
It's just basically Squidward suffering for 12 minutes. They did some visually interesting stuff, like, there was this one scene where SpongeBob is using his tongue to scoop food for everybody, and they're all disgusted by that. That was interesting visually, I guess, but I wasn't all for it. Oh my god! I just forgot about the best scene in the episode. There's one part of the episode where somebody's complaining that the lake is too cold, so it cuts to SpongeBob and Patrick sitting in the water, just ripping stinky, ugly ass in the water, and then Patrick's like, "Oh, come on, the water's fine. It's so good. Oh boy!" And then he sinks down into it and starts gargling the water or whatever.
The lake is too cold. Huh?
That was great. You know it's really bad when SpongeBob resorts to ass humor. That's not very good. That's not a good sign for what's to come. Yeah, I really hated this episode. It was just Squidward torture for the sake of Squidward torture. It visually wasn't very funny anyway. Everybody kind of seemed out of it, especially with their voice acting. I just wasn't about it. The only highlight is Mr. Krabs, but I mean, he always knocks it out of the park. I can't remember his voice actor's name, but I love him so much. It just wasn't that great. If I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would probably give it a solid, 4 out of 10. It just doesn't do a whole lot for me that's interesting. I don't know. I'm not going to say it's like a 3, a 2, or a 1 because it's not so abysmally awful that I'm like seething and like never want to watch this again. Like if this was on and I turned off my mind and I was just like, Squidward's getting hurt, then it would be fine, I guess. But for me, this just isn't even remotely entertaining. The next episode that I'm going to be taking a look at, which is said to be one of the worst, is In Search of Camp Nudist with a 5.3 on IMDb. And this one was interesting, to say the least. It opens with everybody just being really bored, and then they hear a knocking on this tree stump, and this narwhal named Narlene comes out of it. And first off, for the first narwhal I've ever seen in SpongeBob, this is a awful design. It looks like it's straight from Trolls. I was expecting this thing to come out and be like, "Singing killed my grandma, okay?" That's the vibe she got just from her design. But then she just, starts acting like the diddler. She's diddying everything up, it feels like, because she immediately looks at these children. And it is later confirmed that, everybody else on the show is an adult and they're going to an adult camp, which kind of makes it even weirder. But she's like, "Oh, hey kids, you guys would really like this nudist camp. You guys should go to the nude camp." And she gives them a map to the nude camp, so they start going to the nude camp. And my suspicions of perhaps pedophilia, maybe being on the cusp. Narlene is diddying them. Mr. Krabs goes over, and Squidward tells Mr. Krabs where they went, and he's like, "Oh, those children are not ready for the adult form." Okay, so that's kind of saying exactly what I thought it was going to be, which makes it even weirder, just pointing that out. So, they start wandering through the forest, and I kind of thought all these scenes were just whatever. It's just slice of life shenanigans, nothing too funny, nothing too crazy. I do like this one scene though where Mr. Krabs and Squidward are on the hunt for them, on the prowl for them, and Squidward is just like, I can't go on, Mr. Krabs, help me. And he just collapses, and then a bunny is like staring at him and wants to eat him. I enjoyed that scene. I thought that was fun, to say the least. But everything else was just okay. We do get to see Narlene again, and she's being even more diddler. She's just like, oh, come on, fellers, you can't give up. You know, you're so close to seeing all those people in their natural forms. Don't you want to get to that there nudist camp and see all the nude people? It just feels like she's luring them to some kind of dangerous island with a mysterious evil figure, perhaps rhyming with the name Schmepstein. SpongeBob's in cahoots? I don't know. Either way, they keep on going. We get the scene where they have to cross this wooden bridge, which has Patrick just eating immense shit and getting hurt, which I thought was okay visually. It's whatever. And then Mr. Krabs eventually gets to the nudist camp, and he goes in after a brief talk with this weird guy. That was fun, so he's in there. The kids eventually do arrive at the nudist camp, and this is actually where the episode became a lot more positive, at least for me, because they peep into the hole, and I was just expecting, you know, the same animated stuff where they're just all nude, you know, like, it's kind of whatever, but they were all just like PNG images of real, like, live fish and stuff, which I actually thought was pretty cool. I like it when SpongeBob does stuff like that. It's just, you know, a bit of a shock, and it kind of alleviates the pedophile tensions that I was worried about for the kids. Obviously, I didn't think it was going to be a diddler trying to touch them, but either way, still a nice surprise that it's just a bunch of PNGs of fishes enjoying themselves. And we see a crab going around, and Mr. Krabs is naked. He's naked. And boy, oh boy, is he caked up, double thick. Oh my lord, they get a close-up of his ass. Wow. He's very shocked, he's very embarrassed, and he runs away screaming. And then Patrick also has a great scene where it's just a PNG of a starfish that starts running away. I guess it's not a PNG, it's still animated, but I thought that was pretty funny. And he just starts running, and he's like, I'm free, naked! I thought that was good. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the end of the episode a lot. This episode was definitely okay for the most part. I don't really see why this is considered to be one of the worst episodes in the series. I thought one of the best episodes was a lot worse than this one. Maybe it's just because Narlene should be called Diddleen, because she really does feel like that, and her character is awful and just feels like it's trying to lure children. It does genuinely give that vibe for like 8 minutes. That's all I could get from it. Maybe that's why people hated it. But the ending really does save it for me, minus all the, you know, children looking at adult forms. If you just focus on the fact that they're PNGs of fishes, then it makes it a lot better, I guess. Either way, if I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would probably give it a solid 5 out of 10. A 5 out of 10 isn't a bad rating, it's just average, middle of the road. It doesn't do anything overly good that would make me want to rate it higher, but then again, it doesn't do anything really bad that doesn't make me want to rate it lower. It's just a very average episode. The next best episode that I'm going to be taking a look at with a 8.7 on IMDb is Patrick's Star. And I can't even lie, the beginning of this episode was a lot of fun, minus a couple character traits that I just wasn't all about. But for the majority of the time, I was just like, yeah, this is great. It's Patrick's birthday. Woo, baby. Yeah, Patrick. They're just celebrating his birthday, and one kid is going, happy birthday to you. And then Patrick just eats him alive, which I actually thought was a pretty fun way to start the episode. And then they all just start bringing him food, which again, I thought was fun. He eventually gets his present from SpongeBob and Sandy, and they just adopted him a star up in the sky. And so Patrick, being Patrick, he's like, oh, dude, this is stupid. This isn't food. Ugh. And so he goes away, and he's all upset, and he goes into his cabin, and then the star that they adopted crashes down from the sky. Yippee! And it's apparently alive, so Patrick adopts it. Yay, and it's hot to the touch, because it's a star. Okay, this was actually a pretty good introduction to the episode, other than Patrick kind of being a baby, but I mean, it's Patrick, I don't really care too much. So they just go around doing a bunch of different stuff. They eventually get with Larry, you know, living like Larry. They find him, and he has like this weight training class, and they all decide that they're gonna go and take a little relaxation in the sauna. So I was all for that. They get in there, and I actually thought this scene was really funny, where Patrick is like, okay, Gunther, yeah, he named his star Gunther. He's like, okay, Gunther, turn up the heat a little bit, and Gunther just starts like vibrating extremely quickly, and then just everything lights up, and everybody starts screaming.
Up a few notches.
Cabbage Shack.
I thought that was pretty funny, and it shrinks them all, and then the episode just goes like all the way down right after that. It gets very bad, which is really unfortunate. I didn't really like the rest of this episode because they start to lean a little bit too much into Gunther shitting his pants. They really like to make Gunther shit his pants. It feels like they had a unique premise, and then they were like, you know what kids like instead of well-told jokes? They like ripping ass. It's all they're really about, which, you know, I can't really agree with. You know, when I was a kid, I would much rather have a hilarious joke instead of, you know, slop like that. But whatever. They find these rich people who are very impressed because Gunther can make diamonds, and so they give him a bunch of gold, and then he shits his pants all over them, just poofing them with gold.
Size of the diamond.
That was a knee slapper right there. Ooh, that was real funny. So then they find little baby Pearl, and the star and baby Pearl start playing, and they go inside of Mr. Krabs' home and start burning his money. And this is where I thought the episode was going to heat up again, because Mr. Krabs just got all his money burned. You know, it's like, I me boy, me money, I me boy. Like, I thought he was going to start tweaking. I thought he was going to go, me money, me money, me money, me money, me money. You know, I thought it was going to be funny. Maybe, you know, use some clever animation, bounce him over the walls or something, have him tweak, have his eyeballs just inflate and blow up, you know, do something. But no, he's just, "Ay, me money, what are you doing?" And that's it for his tweaking, which I thought was, you know, a bit of a downer. And the Gunther just poops his pants again.
Burning ball of cosmic gas.
I know what stars is.
I'm having such a wondrous time. Oh, Lord. 30 people in the writer's room with SpongeBob's budget, okay? Oh, Lord. So much money just in one room. Oh, how can we tell such funny jokes? We can't. We just can't do it. Oh, let's just make him shit himself again. Yeah, that's pretty much how those conversations went, and it's just not very interesting, at least to me. So because all the money got burnt, Mr. Krabs says that the star has to go, so they start doing a bunch of stuff to try to get rid of the star, which also I didn't think was very interesting. They go up to the surface, try to launch it back into space. That fails. They try to use a giant slingshot to launch it back into space, and Bubble Bass, of course, is on the toilet taking a big old dumpy wumpy. Somebody has a fetish with pooping in this studio, I guess. They're just like, oh god, I just can't have an episode of Kamp Koral without someone taking a mean old dump. That's genuinely what it feels like. It's every other scene at this point. He gets struck down by the power of Gunther crashing into his porta potty, and so Sandy just decides to write Gunther's parents a letter, and two giant stars come down from the heavens, and they're like, Gunther, my boy, oh, come back with us. And that's that. Yeah, that's pretty much the episode. It's okay, you know? Like, for all of its faults and all of its poop humor, it wasn't that bad. You know, at least it was kind of on brand with the star just absorbing things, and then sometimes the shit would turn into something interesting like diamonds, so I guess that's kind of the point of it. But I just feel like they leaned a little too much into that humor. Like, they seemed like they had a really good thing going with the star landing. I thought that was funny, and then him shrinking everybody, the screaming joke, that was funny, and then they were just like, oh man, let's have him shit his pants for the next 7 minutes, and that's where they kind of lost me. So if I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would probably give it a solid Solid 4 out of 10 again. I don't know. It's just, again, the same joke over and over and over again, which is the same thing that they did in the Who's Complaining episode for Squidward. So it's just, I don't know. I can't tell if they're just unconfident or if one person just genuinely is like, the entire time. I really can't tell. But yeah, it's not very good, but it's not atrocious. The next episode, which is said to be one of the worst with a 5.3 on IMDb, is the episode Kitchen Sponge. And this one is just one of those episodes where it's like, it feels like it's trying to have a nostalgia factor. I kind of feel like it was trying to capture the magic of the pilot of SpongeBob, where he first gets the job at the Krusty Krab and has to go up against all the anchovies. I really like that episode, but this just kind of feels like slop. It's so unbelievably boring. Apparently Plankton works at Kamp Koral and he's struggling immensely to feed all these people slop. So Mr. Krabs is like, "Hey, me boy, let's get you a volunteer, me boy." And so SpongeBob is obviously the only one that wants to volunteer. And then we get a bunch of pointless scenes that showcase that he's an awful cook. And then they just immediately negate all that by making him make an incredible souffle. Awesome. And then all of a sudden he's a great cook. Yippee. And Mr. Krabs is like, you're costing me too much money. No. He gets very angry. So, SpongeBob shows him a Krabby Patty, and Mr. Krabs just goes, and he goes, oh God, it's so good. And it doesn't cost really anything, and everybody loves it. So, cool, I guess. I don't know. That was probably the only part of the episode that I liked. It's just Mr. Krabs moaning, and I liked it because he was very expressive. He's just like, "Ay, me boy, oh!" Just creaming everywhere, just busting, because, you know, he liked it a lot.
Mama, that is a tasty pet.
Okay, cool. And then we just get a bunch of scenes with everybody enjoying the patties. Plankton takes a bite, and he's like, yum, yum, so good, so delicious. And then he decides he wants to steal the formula, so we get a scene with SpongeBob chasing him as Plankton is running away with the formula on a piece of paper. Just, I guess, you know, this one couldn't be in a regular SpongeBob episode because they've never done Plankton trying to steal the formula before. And he gets pretty far, and then he runs into Sandy, and Sandy has a little fire, and Plankton jumps onto it, and it burns, catches into flames, and it's gone, and SpongeBob doesn't remember it, so yay. That's pretty much it, except for the ending where Sandy goes home, and then she's apparently talking to future Sandy, and apparently this was a time paradox. So does this mean, is Kamp Koral canon? Do the creators think it's canon? Because that doesn't really make much sense, and it kind of ruins everything from the early seasons of SpongeBob. But either way, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But she's talking to the future version of herself, which was really dumb, about how it's a time paradox and now it's saved so little Sandy can enjoy her summer. And I feel like the entire reason they included that plotline was for a dumbass joke where Sandy's like, "Oh God, guys, the future's saved, yay! At least everything's back to normal." And then it cuts to Patrick, who's clasping a Krabby Patty with his ass cheeks and then squirts it up into his mouth. Man, all that future nonsense for a joke about Patrick squirting things into his mouth, I don't really know if that was worth it, in my opinion. Just saying, kind of wasted my time a little bit there. If I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would probably give it a 4 out of 10. I don't know, it's not that bad, it's just really, really boring. It genuinely feels like something I've seen a million times, but it's done so much worse because, I don't know, you have this 3D world and it feels like they genuinely do nothing with it. It doesn't look visually inspired, it doesn't feel like it has any passion behind it. The entire chase scene, which was the climax of the episode, I just didn't care about it. Plankton gets on a boat, drives the boat for maybe 1 minute, and then runs into Sandy, while SpongeBob is just tailing behind him like, I'm so tired, Like, I just don't care, man. It's just boring. It doesn't feel like they care that much, which ruins it for me. Heading over to the random category with a 8.0 on IMDb, we have the episode First and Last Aid, and this episode has what this show has been severely lacking, because I was always wondering, what was the point of making this show into a 3D animation if you weren't going to use that to your advantage and actually deliver something visually appealing? But here, they do what I've been asking for, and it elevates the episode way more. We get it in the beginning of the episode where Sandy and SpongeBob are playing just tetherball, and they're actually doing interesting stuff with it. Sandy smacks it so hard, and it just pounds SpongeBob, just beats him to a bloody fucking pulp. He gets beat, and I enjoyed that.
I got it.
I thought it was good. I thought it was visually actually pretty entertaining. Not funny, but still entertaining nonetheless. And Mr. Krabs comes over and he's like, "Walk it off, me boy, walk it off." So that's pretty much our premise for the beginning of the episode. They go on this like giant thrill ride where they're skating down kelp and speeds of light, which also visually was a lot of fun, and they end up getting hurt again. But I'm all for the visuals when it's actually entertaining, when it's actually locking me in. I'm having a good time. And then there's this scene that I thought was kind of stupid where SpongeBob walks up to Mr. Krabs and he's like, "Mr. Krabs, I'm back, Mr. Krabs, I have a hernia, oh god, I think I broke my glasses." He's just a little bit hurt, and Mr. Krabs, like, is going to bite a burger, and he doesn't bite his tongue, he just chomps his teeth down, and all of his teeth break. Still, they're doing stuff that they haven't done before in any of the other episodes, so I'm having not a bad time. So, this is when we get to the point where Mr. Krabs realizes that he needs a nurse, so Miss Puff calls for a nurse, and it's Helga, and she's like, "Back in homeland, you know, there was no such thing as having fun, it was only about safety." So she just is a very good nurse, to say the least, and she becomes infatuated with SpongeBob because SpongeBob gets hurt a lot, and then she just starts getting tortured for a while, but still, the advantage here, unlike the episode where Squidward was trying to solve all the complaints, the only joke in that episode was him getting hit with a plank. Here, there are a bunch of different things going on, which I actually like. Like, there's an entire scene where they're just playing chess, and she's like, "Yo, SpongeBob, there's nothing that can go wrong here. There's nothing that can go wrong here. It's a simple game of chess." And then she gets crushed by a bunch of saws. That was fine. At least it's something different. Or when they're sitting up on top of this mountaintop, and SpongeBob has to start meditating, and he's like, "Da! Da! Da! No fun!" And then the entire mountain just does an avalanche and she gets pummeled in it. That was interesting, to say the least. That was better than nothing. At least it's visually appealing. That makes the episode a lot better. And Helga wakes up in just an insane asylum made out of sponge, which was very interesting. And she learns to have fun. So, cool. This episode was definitely a lot better than the stuff that I've seen so far. It's still a little bit boring, but at least the visuals were way up. It's enough to give this episode a solid, honestly, 7 out of 10. You know, it's never gonna be my first choice. If this was ever on, I would not care for it. Like, if we're talking, oh, a regular show is on, I don't know, anything else is on, I would never choose this because it low-key sucks. But out of everything I've seen thus far, it's pretty decent. The visuals were great. I feel like you would be entertained while watching this. It's just not my favorite, but still, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10 because it's definitely the best it has to offer so far. Kamp Koral definitely isn't going to be anybody's favorite show, and if it is, great for you. I don't know, it doesn't really capture any of the magic of its predecessor in any way. I mean, again, I am a guy who really only likes seasons 1 through 3 of SpongeBob, and I genuinely think those seasons are the peak of cartoon television, but I don't know, just it kind of feels like modern SpongeBob in a way, and the majority of it feels soulless. For some of these episodes, it feels like the voice actors are just going through the motions, and I'm not really a big fan of it. I don't know, it feels like a lot of the plots are also very uninteresting. The only plot that I actually liked was the one where they were doing visually interesting stuff, visually creative stuff, actually using the 3D model to do something new that felt different. But did this show really need to exist? Not necessarily. The majority of these stories, I feel like if you really wanted to tell them in a unique way, you could have done an entire season where it's just an arc where SpongeBob and everybody goes to a camp. I don't know why they had to do an entire brand new show. If anything, it genuinely just feels like a money grab. I don't think this show is as bad as a lot of people like to make it out to be. Some people would say, oh, just wait until you watch Kamp Koral. You'll never come back from that. You're gonna be shitting your pants and shaking in your boots after an episode of Kamp Koral. It doesn't really feel like that. I think the show could definitely appeal to some kind of audience. I'm just not that audience. I find all of these episodes to be really boring, and even as a kid, I would find these episodes to be really boring. There's just not a lot to captivate me. The characters fall flat, and it just doesn't make me want to ever come back to the show. Just not really about it. So yeah, that's my opinion on Kamp Koral. I couldn't even get to the second random episode because I was just honestly really bored, and I felt like if I was going to watch that one, then I would probably fall asleep. So yeah, here we are. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching if you made it all the way here, and I got plenty of good stuff on the way. You don't want to miss it, so make sure you're liking and you're subscribing, just all that good stuff. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.